Quit praying for revival. We're going to talk about it next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. And we have our HEADBANGERS BREW, best coffee around this morning. Our very own coffee in whole bean, ground, decaf, K-cups. We got it all. And this says, Lord, I want to ripple. It's one of our older mugs. And I told you the story before of Gypsy Smith when he was asked, how do you start a revival? He said, draw a circle in the ground, and he said, step inside the circle and pray for revival for everyone inside the circle, which is you. And when revival starts there, it'll begin to ripple. Yeah. So Lord, I want to ripple. I want to revival, but is it something I should pray for? Here's the question. Dear Pastor Bob, it's been so long since we have seen true revival in the world. Don't you think we've forgotten what it looks like? Well, I think we've had revival actually in a lot of countries, and here in the United States there have been little pockets of it every once in a while, but huge revival, I think it's ahead. And what do we do and how do we instigate revival and how does it happen? Well, be the revival. You know, we talked about be the church in our last podcast, but be the revival. Lord, I want to ripple. Lord, I want to be part of this. But quit praying for revival unless you're ready to be involved with it. Yeah, because it will involve you. And let me tell you some things about revival. You know, we think, oh, that'll just be glorious. It'll be such a wonderful thing. And it is. And what an opportunity to spread the gospel and for people to come to know Jesus Christ. But it's messy, first of all. Helping people change is messy. And I can tell you that after working with the homeless for a long time. And not that people themselves are messy, but they're different. They don't always do what you want them to do. They don't always think the way you think they should think. Did I say that right? It's messy. At best, it's messy. And it's uncomfortable. And feeling impossible. You know, it's difficult to keep things nice and tidy. I remember when the revival was happening in Calvary Chapel in California, and it was the Jesus People movement, and all of these hippies were coming in and getting saved, and it was wonderful. But in Calvary Chapel, they had just put in some new pews. And so the board was really concerned about that and said to Chuck Smith, the pastor, you know, we don't like these kids coming in and getting the pews dirty. We just put them in and we spent a lot of money for it. And he said, well, let's just take the pews out then. I love that answer. And of course, they kept them in and a huge revival among the hippies started during that time. And your church may fall into disarray. Your home may fall into disarray, whatever it might be, because people don't always continue to be neat and tidy. And sometimes it's impossible to have a perfect church if you're going to invite imperfect people in. And then it can be heartbreaking as well. Dealing with personal expectations of other people can be heartbreaking. There's so many on the streets that I love dearly and tried to help many times, and just to see them go back to things and not being able to be consistent and continue to, come stoned or drunk or whatever, and your heart just breaks for them, and your personal expectations get trampled on all the time. So it's messy, it's uncomfortable, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, just from my experience anyway. Well, let's look at Ephesians chapter 5, verses 11 through 16. And it says, "Do not participate in the worthless and unproductive deeds of darkness, but instead expose them by exemplifying personal integrity, moral courage, and godly character." So, as we look at revival, and we're going to continue to look at this during the month, and we've been talking about fact-checking our poster for the month, and really seeing what is actually going on around us and checking it from the Bible, we see that we're really in a world of hurt. But it says don't participate in any of that. Don't be unproductive in deeds of darkness, but instead expose them by exemplifying personal integrity. That's you. See, it gets real personal, doesn't it? Personal integrity, moral courage, and godly character. For it's disgraceful even to mention the things that such people practice in secret. But all things become visible when they're exposed by the light of God and his precepts, for it is light that makes everything visible. You see all the things that are going on because God's light makes it all visible and exposes the acts of darkness. And for this reason, he says, "Awake, sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine as the dawn upon you and give you light." See, there's revival. Revival doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when people's hearts are ready to deal with other people's hearts, to love other people. And then it says, "Therefore, see that you walk carefully, living life with honor, with purpose, with courage, and shunning those who tolerate and enable evil, not as the unwise, but as wise, sensible, intelligent, discerning people as you are. And make the most of your time on earth, recognizing and taking advantage of every single opportunity that you have, and using it with wisdom and using it with diligence. Keep going, don't stop. Be wise in what you're doing, because the days are filled with evil." But folks, hold on. I believe revival's on the way. Again, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Again, it won't happen without God's people being ready for revival, being ready to ripple. And it won't happen if we're not willing to get messy, uncomfortable, and we're not willing to have a broken heart from time to time, dealing with people who are trying, sometimes not hard enough, to change. Yeah. But when it happens, it's glorious. And folks, I'm committed to it. Now, I can't change the whole world. Well, I can't change anybody. But Christ through me, I can't change the whole world. But folks, as, I've been called the father of this movement, of the heavy metal movement, and I don't say that in any other way but very soberly and responsibly. I feel like it's part of my job, part of my opportunity to bring revival to my community, the heavy metal community. And I'm dedicated to that. I really am dedicated to that. And I'm excited for the things that are happening and the things that will happen in our community in the future. Well, folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.